Sleeping Warrior, and the failure of the loaded dice.
With it. For instance, I could have a pair of dice and I might think that they're loaded. So I would form the hypothesis, this pair of dice is loaded. It favors certain sides over others, right? Because I own a casino and I don't want somebody using loaded dice. So I form the hypothesis and then I could conduct experimental tests to see if the dice is loaded. That's science on a man-made object.
The setup. To paraphrase, someone in charge at a casino notices that some dice do not appear to be rolling random numbers.
So with the dice, if you believe that the cause of the dice showing random weird numbers is that it's weighted, and then you roll the dice 1 trillion times and the results seem to corroborate your hypothesis, you're going to accept that correlation as proof of causation rather than proving the independent variable being the dice is actually weighted to be the cause. An experiment requires a hypothesis, a statement that explains or makes generalizations about a set of facts or principles, usually forming the basis for a possible experiment to confirm its viability, right? You've got to have an independent and a dependent variable in your hypothesis because that's your cause and effect. So if you're going to claim that the effect is random numbers that seem to support number 6, and then your claim is that the cause might be it's weighted, then if you just roll it 1,000,000 times and then you get results that seem to match, and then you declare that correlative affirming the consequent result is causation, then that's not experiment, that's correlation, and it's outside a scientific method. If you take your dice apart and find that there is a weight to it, and then you take the weight out, and then you run your observation to see whether or not you get different results or not, that's manipulating the independent variable and within scientific method, and therefore satisfying the requirement to manipulate your independent variable, the fact that you said you don't need to do.
In Riley's world. Hypothesis. Are the dice loaded? Some issues with Riley's view of the scientific method. Loaded dice. Hypothesis is malformed. Result of the dice variable is not the fact the dice is loaded. Disassemble the dice to verify dice are weighted. A more accurate version is the randomness of the roll. If Riley really thinks in legal terms, wouldn't he know that even a partial destruction of the dice could lead to legal issues if the dice were loaded and someone needed to be weighted in such a way as to give a number a higher probability when compared to the other experimentation? Why the difference? How to answer this question? If the dice are not weighted properly, shows that the randomness of a dice roll has been investigated. Interestingly enough, we already know, common knowledge, dice should roll randomly, but we should confirm it. Previous investigations show statistical probability of the number distribution on dice rolls. Possible experimentation. First dash, is there a problem? Determine if the dice rolls are random. Multiple dice rolls to determine if the current dice rolls coincide with the statistical norm, accounting for the error margin. Note for the paranoid. Can we trust statistics? If the statistical norm is in question, no reason known why it should be included for completeness. Multiple dice rolls of multiple variations of dice, brands, sizes, etc., are needed. This step is not required unless the experimenter is questioning the statistical norm. If the dice do not roll randomly, how can we determine why? See inside the dice, X-rays, ultrasound, etc. Measurement of the sides, compared to each side, compared to standard industry variation. Pretty sure a casino would have a way to look inside a dice, probably not known outside of casinos. Trade secrets and all. These provide more evidence prior to trial, in case the imbalance is not an error in manufacturing. Lastly and finally, dismantling the dice. Why go through all of this? Simple. To show that by starting with a malformed hypothesis, the rest of the thought process for the experiment is malformed. Evidence for this? Let's compare Riley's worldview with a more scientific, more better view. Let's compare the variables of both views. Riley's world vs. more better scientific view. Focusing on the differences between hypothesis, independent variable, and dependent variables. Comparison of each hypothesis. Riley's world. Are the dice loaded? More better scientific view. Are the dice weighted in such a way as to give a number a higher probability when compared to the other numbers? Comparison of each, independent variable. Riley's world. Loaded dice itself. More better scientific view. The evenness of mass distribution of the dice. Comparison of each, dependent variables. Riley's world. Result of the dice roll. More better scientific view. The statistical randomness of the dice rolls. Conclusion. Sleeping Warrior's lack of understanding and massively oversimplification of everything science leads to enormous erroneous conclusions. This starts by the malformation of his hypothesis that leads into a culmination of errors that follows though the rest of the process.